Oh, hey, Olivia. We never talked before the show actually starts, but we have some very, very important news to share with people. Are
really important? Like super, like, come on.
Insanely important. Like the biggest news ever.
Okay, yes. Like, they have a vaccine for the virus.
No, there is a virus. That's what I was going to tell everybody. I don't know if people are aware, but there's been a virus keeping many people at home for a couple of months. And one of the things that this virus has done is given people a lot more free time. Now,
true.
Whether we're using that correctly or not, we've talked about on the past podcast. We'll talk about it again here. But one thing that people always say is like, oh, I don't have time to pray. I don't have time to work out. And then we realize when we have all this time that we're actually not great people. Well, if you find yourself in that position, Liv does. I know she does. But if you're listening and find yourself in this position, what you can do as penance for all of your multitude of sins. You can't go to confession, so just do some penance anyway. You can go to the iTunes podcast store, or just the podcast store. They took the iTunes off. What do I care? Leave a 5-star review. Now, taking the 30 seconds and giving the review isn't the penance.
That's not the penance?
No, it's actually thinking that the show is 3-star and giving it 5 stars anyway. That's the penance.
That's the penance. I see what you did there. Yeah, so, you made me give 5 stars. What the heck? I didn't even have a choice. It was basically a hostage situation. I was trapped in that room, and you said you're not allowed to get out till you get 5 stars, and I said fine.
Yeah, because your mom always said that, you know, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing. So if you ain't gonna leave a 5-star review, just don't do it. Liv, we gotta start the show. We gotta start the show now. Stop talking. Stop talking.
5 or nothing. All right.
What's up? Welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll, and we are having a good time here as Olivia bounces like a little bunny rabbit to the music, because apparently that's how middle-aged white women dance. It's just like a bunny rabbit. That's phenomenal. Where did you learn that style of dancing, Olivia?
I'm trying to make you laugh, Taylor, because I'm not allowed to say things when you start the show. So try to get in your head.
All you have to do is exist for me to laugh at you.
See? So why not add a little bounce?
Speaking of laughing at you, I had a whole segment that was going to lead today's show. Super topical. It connected a whole bunch of things. And that's what was going to lead the show.
You lie. You did not.
I did.
Please.
It is going to be our third segment today.
I'm ready.
Because
why?
You did something.
What?
That absolutely bumped the lead to the last segment. Because obviously the second segment is always our guest. Today our guest is Father Agustino Torres. That dude is the bomb. It's going to be a blast.
Cool. Yeah, he's so cool.
You're so cool. Not.
So you don't mean that. You're so mean.
In our final segment, we're going to be talking about what I wanted to lead the show with. But you, Olivia Eugene Harrison.
Oh, God.
You posted something yesterday that you are the queen of ridiculous things. You're the queen of not recognizing when you're saying ridiculous things most of the time. I point them out to you. Our Instagram DMs are just me yelling at you and us fighting.
It's true. You're so horrible. If I were to print those, I say things like you're like one of my best friends. And I'm sure people are very confused by that. But maybe I'm a masochist. I don't know. So.
Sure. Whatever you want to say. You said it, not me. So here's the thing.
Everything I say upsets you. Go ahead. What is it?
I point out the ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
You did the most ridiculous thing in the world yesterday.
You just don't understand me.
Oh,
that's all.
Oh, you don't understand you. And I'm about to enlighten you.
Thanks, Taylor. I'm so glad you're here.
So there's this concept. I just need to let people know there's this concept, and we're gonna play a game, because that's what I'm going to do with your life, is just play a game with it.
So mean.
We're gonna play a game that we haven't played on the show in over a year. I mean, like, I don't think we've played it since we started with co-hosts a year and a half ago. Like, This is a game that I played with producer Sam, because it's a thing that I do in person a lot of times to kill time. So here we are, 2 months into quarantine shows, and I have all this great content, and instead we're going to kill time by playing this game, because you, Olivia, you posted your life verse. Now, here's what I have to tell people before you even get into yours. Essentially, this concept of life verse, if you've never heard about it, it's like, this is the verse that, this is my favorite verse.
Gosh.
This is the verse that means a lot to me. Like, your life verse is essentially like, this is the verse that I'm like pinning my life on, right?
Yeah.
And you posted
your
life
verse. You're so mean.
Which, if you posted your life verse and it was good, I mean, like, I would be so proud of you. But your life verse might be the thing most opposite from you I've ever heard in my entire life. Do you remember
Did you
what it was?
see? Yes, I've got it right here. And did you see the person for who I posted it for? She came back and she wrote, "This is so perfect. This is the most perfect verse to describe you." And then wrote perfection down at the bottom. So on you, Taylor.
Here's the thing.
You don't get it. You don't get it.
No, I get it. And I'm about to mansplain it to you.
Oh my gosh. That's called everyday. What?
There's a difference between being nice and being loving. That person was insanely nice to you.
Oh my gosh.
I may have been rude, but I was the loving one in that scenario, because there's no way that this verse is your life verse. We have to let the people know. Can I
explain why it's my life verse? You don't even care. That's the thing about you. You make your own judgments and you decide.
I do decide because I'm always right. Please read the verse. Stop arguing and read the verse. Just let people know.
It's from Isaiah chapter 50, verse 4. "The Lord God has given me a well-trained tongue that I might know how to answer the weary, a word that will waken them."
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing that is true. Your words do waken people because you, like myself, are very loud. But like Olivia Harrison, of people, okay, like obviously there are people that I know that are not like practicing Christians or practicing Catholics, but of the like practicing Catholics that I know, you have the least well-trained tongue of everyone.
You mean because I cuss?
Literally everything. Almost everything you say, I have to fix.
It's not a problem. So Taylor, that is the point. That verse I use to remind myself of what God gave me actually to use in this life, and I don't. It's to remind me of what I'm supposed to be doing with my gift and like with my words and all that. That's the whole point, Taylor. I'm not like I fail. Like that's what I'm saying. That's why the scriptures aren't there to be like, attaboy, attagirl, here's where you're killing it in life. It's supposed to be like, here's where you suck. Like get it together. That's where I suck. And I'm like constantly reminded when I read it, I'm like, dang it. I'm not using my gift well. I'm not using my tongue the way that I'm supposed to. Go ahead, say heyo. So anyway, I'm just saying, I know, Taylor, that's the whole point. Do you not get it?
No, you don't get life verses. There are verses that are very challenging. Like, love your enemies because it's easy to love those who love you. Like, I struggle with that verse, not because of the enemies part, but it is like Jesus is assuming that it's easy for me to love people who love me. And I just want to point out our relationship. It is not easy for me to love you, and you love me. So
I'm really lovable. If you can say a lot of things about me, I am lovable, Taylor.
But here's the thing.
I'm like a puppy.
I'm not good at that, so I can't use that as my life verse. Are you understanding this? Life verse has to be something that like connects with your like life's mission. You're just like, hey, here's what I'm bad at. Like,
no,
my
I'm
life
a speaker.
Verse is not like thou shalt not lie, because I lie all the time. It's called Forte
No, it's
Catholic
twofold. Radio. I am a speaker. My whole life is I'm a Catholic speaker. I'm an MC. I write and put on conferences. I do your podcast. I do the radio. Like this is what I do. My whole life is about what I say and how I'm supposed to say it. And if I'm only doing that when I'm on air or when I'm on stage and I'm acting that way, that's not all right. I need to be doing it all the time. Like it's deep, Taylor. It's not just one little, I get it. Your little brain has to have like a black and white situation. This is complicated. That's why I'm a woman and you're a man. So this is what it is. It's more than just what it seems, Taylor. So yes, it is my life first because it is what I do for a living and it is what I do in the everyday. That's all. It's reminding me of all those things that I have been asked to speak.
There are so many other verses about using your gift for speaking that aren't pointing out the part that you are bad at in speaking. You're a great speaker. You're a great MC, but you do not have a well-trained tongue, and that's my point.
What?
So, like, here's my life verse. Also from Isaiah. Ironically enough, only 4 chapters away.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm dead serious.
That's awesome.
I shared this story before, it. It was many years ago. The last
I love
time
that you have a life verse.
So, Isaiah 54:17. I got this from when I was in high school because I've lived a tough life, Olivia Eugene Harrison.
No, you haven't. You've lived a white life, please.
Yeah, sure.
Privilege. Yeah. Go. White male. Yes, please.
You're privileged.
Please.
Do we want to talk about how you were complaining about how you?
I know I have privilege. I know I have privilege. You, my friend.
Can I share my life first, please?
Sure.
It's actually good. Just instead of yours. So in high school, when things weren't going too well, it was actually my mom who gave me this verse. So if you want to make fun of me now, you're making fun of my mom. There.
Okay. I can't wait to tell you where I got mine. Go ahead. Keep going.
I don't care. I'm not going to ask you.
I'm going to tell you.
No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that speaks against you thou shalt condemn. So it's this thing that, like, I'm a man of perseverance. I'm gonna push through all of the hate. I'm gonna push through all of the struggle and all the things. And if anybody speaks ill against me, God is the avenger. He will take care of it. I don't need to worry about it. I'm gonna chill about it. That's my life verse.
Mm-hmm. Mine came from Mass. I was in Louisiana for my very first professional speaking gig, and I was feeling really insecure and scared. And that was said during Mass, and it hit me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have been asked to do what God has asked me to do. And I said yes. And from then on, I was scared. I had it engraved on metal, and I kept it in my back pocket. And every talk I gave, everything I emceed, anything I had, I would take it out. I would read it. I put it back on my person, and then I would have it with me. It was kind of like the feather for Dumbo. It kind of gave me this confidence. And now I don't need it anymore because yes, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. However,
you don't need the reminder anymore to have.
I don't need to read it every time. You don't get constantly in my hands. You know what I mean? I have it engraved on my heart. I now know it. Before I didn't know it. Now I know it. So I don't have to read it. But yeah, it means a lot to me, that whole verse. It also puts me in check with my humanity of Liv, get it together. If I'm asking, you've yelled at me for the stuff that I've done, and you're like, Liv, you can't act like that anymore. You can't talk like this anymore. You say that to me all the time. So I have changed, and I'm like, okay, great. I hear you. I see you. And I'm a person, if you could say anything, I am someone who will take what I don't do well and I will fix it. I do not settle. That is something and someone that I am. So that verse helps me do that. So I think that it's I love it. It means a lot to me. It's my life verse. You can't tell me what life verse is. Jeez.
Essentially, here's what I'm hearing. And this is the only way that I will let you get out of this conversation. Great. Is that you had this life verse and you were living it terribly until you met me. And then I pointed out to you all the flaws, and then now you have been working on fixing them. So your life verse, you may have heard it in Mass, but it didn't make sense until we became friends.
Is that where we're leaving this?
It has to be. It's the only option.
You are delusional, but you know what? That's fine.
The whole point of this segment is that you're delusional.
People who have delusions, we're supposed to go with it, right? I'm not supposed to fight you on it. So I don't want you to know that that's whatever. So sure, Taylor, whatever you want to say to yourself is fine. But that is my life verse, and I love it.
No, here's the thing. So,
and I love that your verse is 4 verses away from mine. I think that's chapters. So great. Okay, whatever. I love it. I love that we're in the same book together, Taylor.
I love we are not on the same page. That's for sure.
That's awesome.
Okay, so here's the game. Are you ready for the game?
Oh, I thought that was the game. Okay, great.
No. Making fun of you is just par for the course. There's a game
Tuesday
that I invented called Life Verse, and I've been using it in ministry for a long time. Just to kind of there is a point to it, but it's ultimately just silly. I always set it up. I'm like, hey. The Lord God has given me a prophetic gift. And essentially, I ask people if they have a life verse. And if they don't, I said that the Lord has given me a special gift to give everybody a life verse. And what I do is just open the Bible up randomly. And then I read the verse and I say, that's the one the Lord chose. And then I knowing things about them, I have to connect it to their life. And then, 5 minutes in, they realize that I'm being ridiculous. So here's the thing, Liv. You like your life verse, but the Lord God has given me a special gift, and I want to.
Change it?
No. I think God told me one that fits with you much more. Are you ready for this?
Okay, I'm ready.
So I opened up my Bible when the Lord spoke to me.
Let me see that Bible. Where is it?
It's right here. So I flipped open to my Bible.
To your digital Bible.
In 1 Timothy chapter 2, and I looked down and I read this verse.
Oh God.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What I have to tell people about this is I'm not kidding. I don't prep this at all. I do not prep this at all. I pick a random book. I pick a random verse. And here's the crazy thing is I think God actually might have given me a gift because this is insane. If you don't believe me, at least I believe me. That's all that matters. No. I literally just opened up a random verse, and here's what it says. A woman must receive instruction silently and under complete control. I'm not kidding. This is not a bit. Obviously, life verse is a bit. This is not a bit. And I cannot tell you how often this happens when we play life verse. You can ask anybody that I've done this with before. That is your life verse, Olivia?
It is not my life verse, and I would tag in Allison Sullivan because she would totally yell at you, right? I would love for you to read that to her. All right, what is wrong with you? Taylor, that is not my life verse.
Like, serious, I'm
probably use that to propose to Sam. You're such a misogynist.
I've never seen this verse in my life.
Oh, come on. You probably have that cross-stitched on a pillow, and you sleep on it.
It's my wife's pillow.
Exactly. You made it for her. You have a shirt.
I will zoom back the video. I will show you back the video where I'm literally just going through this randomly. I'm not like, I'm being 100% honest right now. I did not plan this verse. I am serious. That's insane. Okay. So here's the deal. Obviously, like, I always connect it to people's lives. I'm dead serious. You don't believe
Yes.
me.
How are you going to connect that to my life, Taylor? I can't imagine how. It's such a stretch.
It doesn't need any explanation. Okay, so here was actually the plan for this game. That was like, I'm honestly blown away right now that
I can't with you.
So here's the thing.
It must be a slow day in heaven. They're all like, "This will be funny," and they were like,
"No, like here's what's crazy, Liv. I've played this game. Like, so Sam, my previous producer, not my wife. My previous producer,
oh yeah, that is confusing. Yeah, is it?
My sister's also named Sam. I live a very confusing life. But here's the thing. I'm weird. This will hopefully. I don't think you're ever going to believe me that I came up with that.
I won't.
I literally just scrolled to that and opened up.
I can't believe God loves you that much. That's what I can't believe.
No, like, here's the thing. He has given me a gift for this insane comedy stuff, and I think he likes it. I think he's like, I like you, little court jester. Like 100%. And like, I have people that can vouch. We did it with the staff at Ablaze, and I did it for everybody. And here's what's crazy what happened. I did one with Sam, and she is half black and half white. And I opened up, literally, I had a paper Bible, and I opened up completely randomly. I don't prep any of this because that would take the fun out of it for me. I opened up the Bible, and I just take my finger and I pick a verse and I read that one. The game part for me is trying to connect it to people's lives. But so often it actually, like, something like that, like that's hilarious. That is the end of the argument we were just having. And I promise you 100% I did not plan that. Here's what happened with Sam. I opened up the thing. It was Song of Songs. And it says, I am black and beautiful. And she's half black. And I was just like, what the heck? Like, it blew me away. Everybody's watching. Like, there's no tabs.
You're like Maya Angelou of, like, Bible searches. Look at you.
What's crazy is, like, so
you need a new job.
Most of the time it's silly, but every now and then it becomes serious. Like, there's a guy in that same bus trip. After we're all laughing, there's like a few more. It's like sometimes they don't work. Like, they're just silly, and people it's just fun for me to try to connect it. And people are like, yeah, that was stupid, and then we all laugh, right? And then there's a guy on the staff whose mom had passed away like 2 or 3 years earlier. We had been there for him. We had prayed with him. Like, we had literally walked with him through the loss of his mom. And I'm playing this stupid game. And it opens up, and I forget which verse it is, but it was like about the loss of a parent. And we got to, like, talk with him about it, ask him how he's doing, and pray with him, like, right then. So this stupid game, like, it's crazy how much it actually works. So
going to minister to me and through this verse, Taylor. How is God wanting you to use this for good and for his kingdom, which, may I remind you, is what God has asked us to do?
I think this is it. I think this is how I'm using my gift. I think in the same way that you think you're using your life verse to promote the kingdom, I say the same thing for me in this gift. All right.
But what about, connect my verse. Are you going to connect my verse? So that's it. You're done?
All I'm going to say is that what you were doing with your previous life verse and just praying through it and sitting with it and reading it often, that's what you need to do with this one. I'm not going to say anything else other than read the scriptures. That's all I've said.
You're the worst. Text it to me, Taylor. I'll Lexio Divina it.
Okay. What we were going to do and what we will do on, like, how we play life verse is what I was going to do. I did not see this going this way. I was going to have you, like, pick famous people and I was going to give them a life verse. We don't have time to do that today. So instead, what I want everybody listening to do is to submit people's names, whether it's, if you want a life verse, if it's people that are around the show, co-hosts, guests, whatever, if it's famous people, if it's whoever. Like, I want to be able to give life verses to whoever. We will do this segment again soon, the way that I actually planned it, because this was insane.
I want a resubmitted life verse. So someone choose me, and I get a new life verse from Taylor.
Like, honestly, Liv, that is the second funniest thing that has happened. You do not believe me. 100% that was completely random. So yeah, submit them to me. Send them over to me at Taylor Schroll on Instagram, on Twitter, Taylor at ForteCatholic.com. However you want to get in touch with me, send me your list, and I will do Life Verse again soon. Liv, that might be the craziest segment we've ever done together. Good Lord, that was
I'm
crazy.
glad I made you smile, Taylor.
All right, so we're going to be right back with Father Agustino Torres. This dude is phenomenal. He's dressed like a Jedi. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back, and I'm going to go, recover, because that was insane. Did not plan that. Did not plan that.
Text it to me. I want to read it. Text it to me.
100%.
I know.
So when I have a real Bible, essentially what I'll do is I'll just open it randomly, and every other person I'll do essentially what I'll do is if I get one, if I start with the Old Testament, and I'll be like, that one didn't really work, but he said for you that he had an Old Testament verse and a New Testament verse. You pray with the first one and see if you can figure it out. But the New Testament verse is this, and essentially I had 2 tries to find one that fits with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Legit. When I do it, I've done it on the phone before, and literally Liv, here, I'm gonna.
Are you gonna send me the text? Are you gonna send me the thing?
I am. Oh, hey, Olivia. One of the things that I promised the listeners is that I would be. Every week, I would put out a YouTube video called Living Room Retreats. Literally, all of my events have been canceled. So I have all these talks that I've never shared with people, and I started posting them every week on YouTube, and I've actually been doing it. YouTube.com/ForteCatholic. You've watched all of them, correct?
All of them. I made my kids sit down. We popped popcorn. You've saved quarantine for us.
I really
How did that sound?
Which video was your favorite?
Was that believable? The first one.
The first one. Yeah. What was your favorite part about it?
You look really skinny and handsome. Your beard looked really kept.
Liv has never watched one of these videos, but other people have. And the best review, or the best feedback I've gotten from these videos is that people are like, wait, Taylor can be serious? It's yes. I work at church. I can't be the clown that I am on the radio all the time. Just 90% of the time. 10% of the time I have to be serious. And
I'm still waiting for that 10%. Maybe I'll watch your YouTube.
If you go to
there we go. I will get because I still get the 90 of the silly. So yeah, okay, you can bet I'm going to be watching. Thank you for the reminder, Taylor.
All right, YouTube.com/Forte Catholic. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. Oh my goodness, we added a guest, and if you are watching on YouTube, you're getting a special treat. Father Agustino Torres is here with us today, and he's decked out in his Jedi robes, and he's got a very fancy hat on, just dancing to this intro music that we got here. Father Agustino, welcome onto the show, sir.
Thank you, Taylor. Bless you, Liv.
Oh, thanks. Hi, welcome.
The number one rule on the show, Father, is that we have to love Liv, but we can't be nice to her, and you've broken that one rule. I told you that right before we came on.
He's horrible.
You've already broken that rule.
He's horrible.
I'm a rule breaker.
I knew I liked him. I knew I liked Father.
I love it. When we were texting back and forth getting this set up, you were like, I'm not really set up. I don't have the thing. And here you do. You come on, wearing your Jedi robes, and you've got the Corazon Puro in the background. We'll talk about that in a second. But you've got a great setup, and you're like, you're so humble. You're like, I'm not sure if it'll be good enough. It's like the 5th best setup I've seen in 4 years and a year of doing this on video. So congratulations, sir.
Yeah, I made top 5. Not bad.
So it's funny because I didn't even realize, I didn't make the connection, but you and I met whenever we did a retreat together. This was in the fall, back when we did live events still. I don't know if people still remember when we used
people got together.
Yeah.
You remember that? Oh my gosh.
It was for a Catholic school in Houston, and we actually drove through Liv City to get out of the city to go to this retreat center. And we picked you up from the airport, and had just had a tremendous conversation with you. Got to do some ministry with you, and ironically enough, one of the other people that was serving at that retreat is Brandon Be the Symbol Morrell, who is the person who supplies all of our music for the show. So you were just vibing out to some Be the Symbol. And wearing a very fancy hat, and it's just everything's come together today, Father.
It's all life has a way of doing that, huh? Bringing things full circle. What a blessing! What a blessing!
Absolutely. So we got it. We got to explain the Jedi robes. You haven't gone crazy in court. You're not just some random guy that was just like, you know what I'm going to do in quarantine? I'm going to start looking like a Jedi. You've been dressing like this for many years. Why don't you tell us why? Introduce yourself to us a little bit.
My name is Father Agustino Torres. I'm a Franciscan friar of the Renewal. We wear a Franciscan, it's called the Franciscan habit. A lot of people call it a robe. Many people mistake us for Jedis because I think they kind of took the whole Jedi garb from us. We're not monks, we're friars. Friars comes from the Latin word for frater, which means brothers. And basically, it's kind of like, you know, when the cities started growing and the population centers started moving towards the cities, the Holy Spirit rose up this response, which was the mendicant life. Mendicant comes from the word of beggar. And so we take a vow of poverty, a vow of chastity, and a vow of obedience. And so we live really simple, we pray really hard, and we serve with all of our hearts. And that's what we do as Franciscan friars.
And you're doing a great job at it. It's been fun to kind of get to know you. Like it was funny because like 3 weeks after you and I we're just hanging out, sitting in the back of this retreat center, you know, just kind of chilling out while somebody else is talking to the young people, and we're just like, hey, there's this event happening in 3 weeks called NCCYM, the largest Catholic youth conference in the United States, and you're just hanging out with me, and it's like, oh yeah. I was like, hey, aren't you like the headliner at that? Like you're hosting the largest youth event, and you're just like, yeah, it's whatever, you know, like you're just like chilling, like you're so humble.
Like it's Tuesday, no big deal. And you're sitting with like Billy Crystal of the Oscars, and Taylor was he was fangirling a little bit. He was excited.
Yeah,
I mean, fanguying, right? Is that what it would be, Taylor?
Sure.
Is that a vampire or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to tell you. I didn't want to tell you while we were together so as not to scare you. But now that we're halfway across the country from you,
he can't hurt you.
It would be safe to tell you.
No, it was a blessing. I tell you what, I came home from that young men's retreat, the high school young men's retreat. And I was just telling the brothers that there's just some things that you could do there that you just can't do anyway. And sorry, Liv, we can't tell you what it is. But it was beautiful to see these young men draw closer to Christ. And then a couple of weeks later, in a totally different environment with like 20,000 young people, it was beautiful to see how the Lord can work retreat center in, you know, the middle of East Texas somewhere, and then all the way in this huge venue. But I'm not gonna lie, Taylor, like that was it was really challenging because there's so many elements. It's one thing to have a retreat and to kind of be like, what's next? Oh, okay. All right. There was a change in retreat. All right. Re-roll. Like there's so many technical things, so many moving parts, but the Holy Spirit works through all that too. And so that all was a blessing as well. And I think that I was honored to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I think the coolest thing that happened on that retreat was after you spoke, the line for confession was just crazy long. And there was one priest there, and that one priest was you. This is a 3-day retreat. And literally every time we had free time or meals or whatever, like Father Agustino was hearing confessions. He wouldn't say this, but I will, because he's super humble. But like, this man's a legend. Like, he heard the confession of like, I don't know, 3/4 of the 150 kids that were there. And here's where I come into the story, because obviously I have to insert myself into the story because that's how this works.
Always. It's always about Taylor. We get back to Taylor.
At the end of this retreat, like all the kids are leaving, everything is, and then I'm chilling outside. Father walks up to me. He's like, man, this is a good retreat, but like I'm exhausted. Like I just heard, you know, probably 100-something confessions or whatever. And I was like, so this is an awkward question because I've been meaning to wait until the end to ask you to hear my confession. And so like literally he's like, man, I'm tired, and you know, it was good, but I'm tired. And I'm like, this is weird, but can you hear mine? And he, like, without skipping a beat, like he was just like, yep, let's do it. So we walked back into like where we had the retreat, and he can't tell you any of this, but I can. It's my confession. I can say whatever I want. So
there you go.
We're sitting, you know, in this room where we were private. And then like we get to the point in confession where I'm saying my sins, And Brandon Morrell, the guy who we were just talking about, does all the music, walks in and just like hears all the juicy parts.
What?
And then Brandon freezes and like his eyes are like, and I just look at him, I'm like, leave. Like, you know, like not being mean, but like, I was like, he was just
turn
frozen.
around.
I'm like, bro, it's okay. It's okay. We're friends. It's fine. But like, it's time to leave now. You know? So,
I love it. That's hilarious.
I've told that story one other time before. And,
Taylor.
You know, Father has to pretend it never happened, but it was hilarious.
He knows nothing. Father knows nothing. And I'm sitting here going, why wasn't it me? Why didn't I walk in?
Yeah.
Not a guy. Jeez. That's awesome.
Teaching moment. If anyone does hear anything that is said in a confession, they too are held under the seal. So as a priest is held under the seal of confession, if you walk in and you hear everything, you are held under the seal, and I'm informing all y'all's conscience right now that don't mess with the seal. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
I won't. And that was terrifying. We're all like having fun, and then all of a sudden he's pointing his finger at me. I'm like, okay, I won't. I believe you, Pop.
Done.
So when we were chatting before, we were like, okay, what do we want to talk about? There's so much that we could be talking about right now, especially with I mean, you've done so much in your ministry. There's so much going on in the world right now. I was just like, you know, what do you want to talk about? And you were like, well, there's this one thing that's been on my heart literally today. And I was like, well, that's perfect then. Let's do that. So what have you been sitting with and praying with today, Father?
I'm sitting praying that, you know, it's, there's a lot going on. Thanks be to God in ministry. There's you know, I think it's so powerful to see how people have, you know, gone to the airwaves and the internet waves and are bringing the good news. And I know for a fact, there are so many people who are encountering the good news, who are asking for prayer, who a couple of weeks ago, they weren't, that's not where they were at. I was thinking, you know, kind of thinking about some people's reaction to things, some people's reaction to the situation that we're facing, some people's reaction to old wounds, I guess, in the church, their own wounds. And it occurred to me that, you know, sometimes our ministry, sometimes the way we serve God can become merely ideology if it ever gets separated from an encounter with Christ. So it's like if what we're doing, if we do what we do and it's devoid, if it's separated from this encounter with Christ, or at least an attempt, right? For an encounter with Christ, like we forget who we are, and then we just do what we do, and then it was actually, I'm not, okay, some of the back, like I was on Hermitage, which means that it was like a time of prayer. And I was just thinking, and I have a theater background, and I love Les Mis. I think
good.
It is Catholic culture, but like, you know, I like it because it's like, it's so Catholic, but it doesn't say it's Catholic.
Yes. It's not obvious. It's just, yeah, it's not in your face. It's there though. I love that. Yeah, totally.
I was thinking about Javert.
Yes.
He was like the policeman who was so like bent on justice.
Like the Pharisees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was asking, like, spoiler alert, he took his life. He took his own life.
Right.
And I was asking, why did he kill himself? Was it because he received he received help from the person that he had sworn to persecute? Was it because it messed up his whole world, or is it because he didn't know how to incorporate? This was my thought process. If what we do becomes just about what we do and not about encounter with Christ, then we lose what we do. Does that
Love that. Yeah, we've missed the entire point. And then there's nothing but ourselves there that is filled, and that will always be empty. We will always be empty if it's just about us or whatever our mission agenda is. If it's not about Christ and his kingdom, that's the only thing that's going to actually fill us. And I think you're right, especially with that character. I think he was so lost and empty. And by the time he figured that out, I think it just crushed him. I think he absolutely got crushed under that whole concept, because his whole life was like this lie, basically, because he was chasing the wrong thing. I don't know. But
yeah, and it's like sometimes we throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Yeah,
It's like we're
all or
choosing
nothing.
something good,
Mm.
but it's at the expense of another good, and
Yes.
then that's when it becomes bad, right? You know, and like I don't know, take your pick. You know, in the past, the church has had many issues and heresies and divisions and stuff, and it usually starts with really good people who are doing really good, but they exclude another good, and it's like they say, well, that you know, well, I don't know anything about that, but I know this is right, and like this is the thing with life. It's kind of messy, and you know, like we can't forget, like our Catholic faith is so rich, even if it doesn't necessarily fit into our little worldview. Like justice without mercy is not justice. You know, and this is like hard because like, no, well, this is right, this is wrong, yes. And then like, what is mercy? Like, it's like, you know, things can be black and white, but then when you talk about mercy, it's like, well, what does that mean? And it's kind of like, it's almost like this process expands our heart. Here's John chapter 8, when the woman was caught in adultery, and they bring her to Jesus, they throw her down, and they say, this woman was caught in the very act of adultery. Side note, I thought it took 2 people to be caught in adultery. Where was the guy? I don't know. But anyway,
Amen.
Woman was thrown, and then Jesus does his thing, right? He draws a line in the sand, you know,
Right.
cue the Western music.
Very John Wayne.
Let he who is without sin cast the first stone, right?
Jesus was a Texan. I'm glad that you recognize this.
Chuck Norris is Jesus. They're the same.
And then the scripture says, beginning with the older ones, they left their stones there. And I was like, what an interesting detail. And I think, I mean, like, I know we're young, at least we're still young, but it's like when you get some experience, like it kind of changes how merciful you are. I don't know if you, I mean, like Taylor, I know you're a father. Liv, we haven't gotten to that part of the
I have kids, yes.
She is not a father.
Not Taylor's kids. I have my own. He has his kids. I have my kids.
But that changes you.
Yeah.
Like you're not the same.
True.
And you know, it makes you a little bit more aware of, you know, the world, and you know, and I hope it makes you better people. But like, there's things in our life that change our perspective. And I'll share one with me that I was just thinking about this weekend. My father passed away 2.5 years ago. And you know, I'm a priest. I help people get through these things all the time. But when it happened to me, it changed the way I see the world. And I don't know if I can explain to you guys in just a couple minutes, like how, but my point is that experience has a way of expanding our hearts and saying, you know what? I'm going to throw my stone down first because you're right, Jesus. You're right. I know myself more. And I know that if I follow something just because I'm following something, then it's not something I want to be following, because if it's not leading me to an encounter with Christ, or if I'm not at least trying to bring that in, because I know, like, well, how do I know if it's an encounter with Christ? I mean, like, you know, I say, like, but you're sincerely trying to sustain your response to the fact that Jesus loves you. Boom. Boom. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it's funny because that was the last question I was going to ask you, and you just answered it. Just I mean, you brought up these 2 words throughout this whole time of experience and encounter, and like, you know, like you know, with the passing of your father, that is a tough experience, and a lot of people, like, we've all been walking through this tough experience of this coronavirus and the pandemic, like just physically, mentally, spiritually, financially. Like a lot of people are struggling. And like, I think that is the encouragement there that you just shared. It's like, we're all in this experience together. And like, it has been harder for me personally to encounter Christ in the midst of all this stuff, being stuck at home and masses online. Like, it is harder to encounter, but that encounter is still possible, and that encounter is still there. So so thanks for sharing that. Thanks for coming on today, Father. I appreciate you taking the time. Why don't you've got the background, the corazón puro. That's the whitest guy in the world trying to say that.
I was going to say, please stop. Like,
no. It's also funny because at the beginning he was like, I was like, Father Agustino Torres, and he's like, I'm Father Agustino Torres. You know, like,
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your ministry and how people can
make the white people stop talking.
Yeah.
Corazón Puro means pure heart in Spanish, and it's a ministry that began in the South Bronx to bring the theology of the body to inner city young people, and it's expanded to 3 different countries in 8 different chapters or affiliates. And basically, it's like we're trying to build up leaders for the church in areas of great need. You know, there's not too many resources that make sense in the South Bronx. And so we had to kind of like, you know, figure it out and put it in the words that the people there are understanding. And it's been a great thing. We're hosting a Spanish and an English monthly meeting, the first and second weekends, Saturdays of the month. So check us out, Corazón Puro NYC, or follow me, Orale CP. Orale, ora actually comes from the Latin word for pray. So we're Orale CP is the Instagram that kind of covers everything. So for us, we'll try to bring the good news of who we are, God's plan for love, in ways that young people can understand.
Well, you're an absolute pro at this, Father. Thanks for spending some time with us today. And in honor of you, in honor of NYC, we're closing it out with some of Brandon Morell's music. I appreciate you coming on, guys. Liv and I will be right back for our final segment of the day. Please don't go anywhere, or I will be very sad. Olivia, you complimented me on something yesterday, which blew my mind because you very rarely compliment me. So
no, that's you. You rarely compliment me.
I compliment you all the time. I'm the nicest person in your life.
God, I wish that were true. Actually, you might be, which is really sad. What does that say about my life? But yes, I did compliment you because you are killing it online on something I don't understand because I'm a girl. But apparently all the boys love it, and you play little video games, and all your little friends from the schoolyard come and watch you play, and you're smashing it. Is that 50% right?
50% of my viewers are women.
Is that true?
Yes.
Is it your mom? It's your mom and Sam and Allison.
My mom.
Who else?
My mom refused to watch. Allison would never watch. My wife will just turn it on every now and then just to hang out with me because I'm ignoring her while streaming on the stream.
You're the worst.
But yeah,
I'll watch it, Taylor. I'll come watch.
We crushed it. We hit 100 followers. We hit 20 subscribers. We broke all the records for like most views we've ever had. So come follow twitch.tv/Forte Catholic. We're having a lot of fun. It's been fun for me because I get to interact with listeners of the show that I'd never really have gotten to interact with before. So come hang out with me, twitch.com/Forte Catholic. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. What a show we've had today. No one's going to believe me that the first segment was real. Everyone believes that Father Agustino Torres is real. That guy is awesome. We're having a show today. And now we're going to, like, part of me wants to continue playing Life First just to prove to people that I didn't do that on purpose. But like I said at the beginning of the show, we have to end the show how I wanted to lead the show before Olivia brought all this craziness into my life. What's new? So, Liv, I thought you were the perfect person to talk about this topic with. I want to talk about failure.
Thanks. Yes. No, that's perfect.
You're welcome. So I was reading a book about podcasting.
You were reading oh, okay. All right.
Okay. So no, here's the thing. I don't read books.
I was going to say.
I pay people $10 to read to me for 12 hours. It's called Audible. So on all of my like pokey walks that I've been taking, like when I take like my walks with my son, we have walked 12 out of the last 14 days for at least an hour together. It's an absolute blast. I'm feeling better because I'm not sedentary. It's been good. But sometimes when I walk by myself, like at different times or after he goes to sleep or whatever, like there have been multiple times where I just like take a walk at midnight and I'm listening to Audible while I'm taking my walk. Or my prayer app. Like I'm trying to be a good person, and I can only do it for about an hour a day. So I just put it all together. I'm walking, being physical. I'm de-stressing. I'm either praying or learning. Like I just put all of my good things into 1 hour, just to get it out of the way at the end of the day. So I didn't know if you were frozen or still there. You have no reaction to what I say. We talked about this earlier. Like you just don't react to the things I say. Anymore.
Oh, like I think it's great. I told you yesterday, I think it's really great that you're walking and doing all the things. And I know doing an hour is a lot for you. And I know Chris loves it. So I think that's really cute. Yeah.
So
you're a good dad.
There have been a lot of victories here recently. There's been a good couple of weeks. You know, the previous 4 to 6 weeks was a lot of failure involved.
Yeah.
But I was listening to this podcast book, and it's a book on podcasting. I've been helping a lot of other people run their podcast. I'm essentially producing for a bunch of different people now, not just this show. So I was like, okay, I want to grow in this and be able to help them out better because, you know, I'm already doing everything perfectly here, but I want to make sure that I can translate it over to other people's shows. So I love how I said I'd do everything perfectly, and then I had a brain fart and I was like,
because we all knew that wasn't true, but yes.
It's God smiting me because the only time he talked to me was when we were playing Life First earlier. But that's beside the point. So he was talking about this app that started. So I'm just walking in my neighborhood. He talked about this app that started that was like it was a whiskey like check-in and like ratings thing. So it's like one of those things like I don't know if you've seen like some bars have the like
yeah.
Yes. Name on a plaque or whatever if you try every one of our craft beers or whatever, right?
Correct. Yes.
So there was this app that was the same kind of idea, just not at a specific bar. It was like you checked in, you posted a picture of the whiskey you were trying, and there was a list like to go through. It was like all the best whiskeys in the world to see which one you liked best, and just kind of it was like a little social media for that, right? And after about a year, the app failed, and it just wasn't a big enough market, and it just wasn't like. But the one thing that they learned through their failure was that what did people like to do? They liked to post pictures, and they liked to comment on each other's pictures.
Yeah.
So they rebranded that app, and they called it Instagram.
Are you serious?
That's how Instagram started.
No way.
Instagram started as a failed whiskey check-in app, and it's now, you know, one of the biggest social media.
It is.
And it got bought by Facebook. So like literally they are the biggest social media network.
It's bigger than Snapchat. Yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy.
That's crazy. What a good story.
Yeah. I mean, the point of it was that like, some people learn through failure and some people don't. He shared another story about a podcast that started and everybody was gung-ho about it and they had their mission. And after like 6 to 9 months, they realized that like it wasn't connecting the way that they thought it was going to, and they quit. They just completely quit the podcast. While Instagram, like they failed, but what did they learn through their failure? They learned that there wasn't a big enough audience for people trying whiskey and checking in. Like it just wasn't there.
Yeah, right.
With all the money they were putting into it, but they were like, what did we learn? We learned that people like posting pictures and commenting, and now like our world revolves around people posting pictures and commenting.
Yeah.
And so they were able to pivot and do that. And I was just like, you know what? Like that is a thing that I have done well in my life, and a thing I haven't done well in my life is learning through failure. Sometimes, like there's like the whole making Catholicism fun again kind of came from that. The biggest thing that I struggled with, like every time that I failed, like, you know, I wasn't, especially within Catholicism, I wasn't praying enough. I was sinning. I was doing all these things. Like when I got into those, like, by the way, not much of that has changed. I'm still a bad person, but just how I react to it is different now.
Yeah.
I was just completely taken over by the guilt of like, oh, I'm never going to be good enough. Like I, you know, and I wanted to quit. And like that was when God was like, look, dummy, this is why I died for you, because you're a sinner. Like I knew that when I created you, I knew you were going to be a sinner, which is why I sent my son Jesus, because I knew you were going to be an idiot and he needed to fix your problems. I was like, well, thanks. I started like accepting that. Right. So now when I fail, it's more like look, I'm still sorry, but thank you. Like you died for my stupidity before I even committed the stupidity. Right.
No, I think that wait, you're just going to stop right there? I felt like you were about to say something like...
This is how conversations go, Olivia. Again, you've forgotten how to react to things.
No, I thought you were about to say something even more profound. Like I was like all into it. Is this like when you talk serious? Is this what it's like, Taylor? Is this
here was the thing. I was talking a lot, and I realized that I talked for quite some time, and then I realized that you were living out your life verse very well, and just sitting there and listening and learning. But I wanted to give you a chance to.
You're trying to include me.
I think that you deserve that.
Thank you. Wait, I actually have a question. You were talking about a podcast that wasn't going or like they did it for a couple of months and then they stopped. Is there an ending to that story, or that was it? That was the whole ending. Like, are they now like MSNBC News or something?
Like they actually failed and quit. Like the project.
Oh, okay. It's just
abandoned.
That's it. That's the end of that.
But the connection in that story from the guy that was writing this book,
I see what you're saying.
He was brought in to try to help fix that podcast, and he was he came in as the podcast expert and was like, here's what is good about the show and what's not. And essentially,
what's the name of the book? What are you reading?
Make Noise. It's no one's gonna read it because there's like maybe the 10 other podcasters listen to this podcast will read it, but
you don't know. You
it's
never
not
know.
a mass appeal thing, but
you're not getting cut back for that.
Use the code Forte. No, I'm just kidding. It's not but the connection was like he was on that project and he learned from their failure and was able to incorporate like what they learned into. They quit. The project was abandoned, but he's able to share those kinds of things like with this book now.
So let me ask you this: when is a time that you had an Instagram moment where you had a failure that turned into something better than what you originally thought was going to be happening?
The Forte Catholic podcast.
No, I know, but besides, like, is that it? Like, is that, I mean, this is it? I'm asking.
Like, yeah, I mean, I've shared relatively recently, so I'll do it quickly, but like the show now is completely different than what it was when it began.
Oh,
like,
when you started.
Yeah,
okay.
So like when I first started, like the goal was to bring joy to people, but I wasn't really doing that. It was more like a, like I was talking, it was like a youth night where I was like teaching. It was more the serious side, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this isn't really what I wanted, but like I wasn't quite sure how to do what I wanted.
Yeah.
And that was like the first year of the show. The second year of the show, producer Sam came in. She's hilarious. She was like pushing back on me and having conversations with me. I'm like, I'm so much better at conversation than just sitting here and talking. Like I even noticed that like doing my talks, like there's talks that I will give live in person that are 45 minutes long. I can do them in 15 minutes in here because there's no interaction with the people. Like that's where I'm better, is interacting with people. And I learned that in that first year of the show and was like, and really just kind of came naturally with Sam. And then whenever she left, like that was the moment. I was like, when she left, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to stop this show? Like it can't, like I was kind of devastated, And then I was like, well, what can I do? I can, and like after maybe 6 weeks of like sitting in that, like, man, I don't know what this is going to be. I was like, you know what? I'm going to add co-hosts, and I added the group of rotating co-hosts, and like the show has taken off and it's so much better now in the last year and a half than it ever was. And completely different than like how the show started, but more in line with the vision of what I wanted it.
Yeah. No, but that's interesting though, that you were able to take that example, and that's what I was trying to get you to. And you even like applied, not in the same way, but the concept, like giving these talks in your living room. Like you've learned about yourself. Like this is where I really like excel. And this is where I whatever. Cause I talk a lot about strengths and how we're supposed to actually dig into our strengths and not really our weaknesses, because then you're just wasting a lot of energy. So like, I think that's great that you figured out, this is my strength. It's with people. It's with interacting with people. That's what I do. And I think that's why like you're doing this whole amazing Twitch video game thing. That's an interactive platform for you. Like, so that makes sense, but that came out of your failure. And I think that that's really fantastic. And that's the whole point. It's like, it's not just applying it to the obvious, like, oh, Forte Catholic, but where else have you used that? And then like just kind of seasoned your life with it. And I think that that's really cool. So I see that. So
what's your biggest failure in life?
Oh God. Are you kidding?
Nope.
So many failures. It's insane. I don't know if I have a direct, you know what? I don't know if I have a direct failure that has impacted me the same way that it has with you. I know that when I did stand-up comedy with Jen Fulweiler in Austin, I left that stage and I knew that's what I didn't want to do. And I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that
I could have told
counts.
you that before you started, but whatever. I'm glad you learned it on your own.
Thanks, Taylor. My whole life, people have told me to do stand-up, and it wasn't because I wasn't.
Those people like you, but don't love you like I do.
No, it's not because I'm not good at stand-up. I don't want that lifestyle. Like, I have no desire to be in those clubs, to be with, to hear the things I heard. Like, I'm just at a stage in my life where I'm just like, that's a no for me. Like, if I could, just do it in a different way.
Wow, you just admitted that you just like transferred into old. That's how old people think.
No, it's not about that. It's about the stage of life of knowing like what I like before. Like, I would be always wanting, I'm such a people pleaser that I would do that at any fault, like to myself especially. And I'm just not willing to do that anymore. I'm not willing to be in places that I do not feel like is okay. And there was nothing like redeeming or moral or fantastic about being there. And I just knew I don't want to do this again. Like, and I think, if that was supposed to be my boat, I missed it back in, back in the day, because I think I would have been great at it, but it's just not the scene I want to be in. So that's something that like, I didn't know, I didn't realize that, especially because it's something that I've been approached with my whole life. People have said that to me. And so that was, I don't know, not the same kind of failure that you're talking about, but it definitely was something that kind of pushed me in a different direction. I didn't put my energy there anymore. Yeah. Or my mind energy.
All that being said, I'm surprised you haven't quit this yet.
It's coming. I'm just kidding. If there were no quarantine, but I've got nothing else to do. So
here, as I was like, this has been on my mind for, I finished the book about a week ago. Okay. This has been on my mind ever since. And so many like failures, failures turning into success, both in my own life, which I've already shared a couple of them. But also like, it's amazing to me. The movie 300 and the story of the Alamo are actually very similar.
They are very similar. I was just talking about 300 2 nights ago. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I was thinking about the Alamo first. Like literally the thing about the Alamo is remember the Alamo. I used to live a mile away from the Alamo. I could bike there and I often did. Just like walked around like history. And it's this crazy thing is everybody literally remembers the Alamo. That was the crime. And that like they lost. Like
big time.
Like in one sense they failed because like literally they lost and they died. But that they succeeded in, that was the catalyst for the Battle of San Jacinto, which like I went there as a kid, like growing up in the Houston area, like we went there all the time. And that's actually where Texas won the war.
That's right.
And it wasn't the Alamo, but no one other when I said San Jacinto, unless you grew up in Houston, like
no one knows it.
Only Houston people know that.
That's
true.
No
one knows that Texas won the war at San Jacinto. And so I was thinking about that, and like 300 is the same thing. Super famous story, super famous movie, and like they didn't win there. They won somewhere else in Greece that only people in Greece know, just like only Houstonians. I don't know. I don't live in Greece. I don't know where they won, but it wasn't there. And all of these failures, we don't remember the actual victory. We remember how people dealt with the failure and how
that's interesting.
Their sacrifice in this case and their failure in that point like helped other people later. And I've talked about it on the show over the last couple of weeks. I mean, I'm just enthralled by The Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan. I know you're not
I've heard amazing things. I haven't watched it.
I know you're not a big sports person, but like
no, but Michael I'm not a big sports person. It's just I don't live and die for it, but I do love sports, so I wouldn't mind watching it.
It's phenomenal. I mean, he just took over the culture. It's like even non-basketball fans were watching him. And the thing that is crazy is like he is known as the most clutch player of all time. Like Kobe's up there. LeBron's actually super clutch, even though he has a reputation of not being clutch. Like he's like, these are some of the most clutch players of all time. And Jordan specifically, they're talking about it. And like I should have pulled the numbers up. I forgot, but like he hit somewhere, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but he hit somewhere around 30 game winners and shot 300 like game tying or game winning shots. And it was very similar for Kobe, who was also known, but like, hitting those 30 to 50, however many game winners they actually hit is what made them famous. They hit them like 10, 20% of the time. They missed 80% of the time. And we remember them as super clutch and like as heroes, like literal basketball heroes. And like Michael was talking about how often, like people don't remember how often he missed game winners. It's the success. And I was like, golly, like, we think of the Saints like people think of Michael Jordan. that he hit every game
Ooh.
winner that
Ooh.
he hit, right? The
Yeah.
Saints did not hit every perfect note.
Right.
They didn't always avoid sin. They
Right.
messed up just like
They
you
were
and I
very
do.
human for a
But-
long time. Yeah.
Right,
Or
but,
some of them. Yeah,
like,
they all have
that's-
different stories.
that's
Yeah,
real,
good point.
you know?
I like
So,
that.
like, if we're going to be like our Saints, it's not going to be because we're perfect and kind of stuck in that failure. But like Michael would miss a game winner. Guess who was taking the game winner the next night? It was in Michael's hands. And like
Sure.
that's what I was just sitting with that and all of the failure and all of the, like, you know, 2 Corinthians, like, my grace is sufficient in you because my power, God's power, is made perfect in our weakness. So I was just like, you know what? I know my weaknesses. I'm going to accept them. I know God loves me anyway. I'm going to still work at it. I know I'm still going to miss, but I'm going to hit more the more I try. I was happy
love
about
that.
I love that I will say that. You know what?
Aww.
I don't like you, but I love you.
Thanks, Taylor, because you have to.
I do have to. I'm contractually obliged. That is our show today, Olivia. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Thanks, Taylor.
All right, I'll be back next week. See ya! All right, that's it. I'm not doing Patreon. I'm just gonna do them all for free. Oh, okay, let's just do that. Let's do that. Okay.
Are you sure? Oh, yeah, that should be the commercial.
Yeah.
This is it right now.
This is it.
Hey, Taylor.
No, shut up. Olivia. Olivia. Hello. Hello. There.
Hi, Taylor.
Have you noticed
Yeah.
anything different about today's commercials?
Yes, I have.
Oh,
You
I don't
haven't
think
told
you
me to
have.
buy lip balm or socks. You've just told me to go do things. The actual placement today, Taylor.
Well, good. Your internet cut out. That's fantastic. But yes, I have not asked people to buy anything during this coronavirus. No one has any money. We've all lost all of our monies. So just do things for free. Just do things for free, and that's all the things you can do. You can give a rating. You can go follow on YouTube. You can go follow on Twitch. All for free.
Okay.
All right. But bye now.
Bye.